Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
Nice and quiet, Peter. Nice and quiet. Here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. But I'm in the underground bunker. I went way, way deep to get some really cool information for our listeners today. And I had to make sure that it was like in our top secret vaults. And I wanted to go down there and I wanted to get them. And I didn't want to bring them up to the surface and let anything be seen by the sunlight. Are you ready, Peter?
Yes.
Are you ready for these secrets?
Yes, Bill. We're all ready. hey, I think you're becoming more entertainment than you wish.
Oh yeah, right. Well, anyways, welcome to podcast episode number 377, and the name or the title of today's episode is "I Gotta Create a Real Estate Deal. Now what do I do?"
Yeah.
We talked about that last week, right? So, or in episode number 376. Here's the description. Imagine this. You've just landed an incredible, once-in-a-lifetime creative real estate deal. The kind that seasoned pros whisper about in confidence. Your adrenaline is pumping. I'm sorry. Your adrenaline is pumping. The contract is signed. And then panic sets in. What on earth do I do next? In this episode, we will dive into the maze of getting this deal sold so you can collect your big, fat profit checks. Notice I said checks, not one, multiple.
Yeah.
It can seem like a journey filled with twists and turns where every decision can make or break the deal. But here is the interesting thing. Today, we will explore real life scenarios of a deal just like what you may have right now. How it should unfold, what pitfalls lurk in the shadows, and the uncharted waters you haven't traveled yet and worry about until now. This single episode will reveal the lesser known or spoken about facets of creative real estate, selling creative real estate deals for gargantuan profits. So join us today as we uncover the secrets, pitfalls, and triumphs of the backside of creative deals. The path might be windy, but the insights are priceless. Ta-da!
There you go. Well, it's funny. We spend way most of our time, 99%, on getting properties, right? That's the trick, getting them. But once you get them, it's not that hard to sell. But wait a minute. I haven't done it too much lately. I've done it a few times, but not quite lately. So I'd be like, wait a minute. Let's refresh my memory how that works.
I'd like to say that if I had my way, which I don't because we need listeners, so I have to pay attention to what listeners want.
Yeah.
But if I had my way, I would talk about nothing but selling the deals. Because if you know what your buyers want and you talk to your seller, it makes it easier for you to tell the seller what you can and can't do.
Yeah, because one of the things, if you talk to somebody, like say you have a renovation or something, which we don't do much, but say, hey, I'd like to borrow some money to do a renovation, and then the relative goes, what if you don't sell it? So people are a little more stuck sometimes on what if, but we're not stuck on the what if part. But if you do sell some, then you do have a better frame of mind, like how the whole thing goes from start to the end.
Right. We're jumping way ahead, but This is true because for a while there, I had a form. Remember, I made which ended up turning electronic after a while. But the way you do really good in creative real estate is you figure out what you can sell a property for, you figure out what the seller wants, and then in between. So if the seller is what the seller wants is on the top of the form, what the buyer wants is on the bottom of the form. In the middle of the form is a halfway between those two.
Hmm.
And people worry about how to do deal structuring and all that, and that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Right. All right, so let's carry on. Let's do some
Yep.
of our housekeeping. So, first of all, there is a exhilarating, very I shouldn't have done it link in the description, which I will go over in a little while. Okay.
Yep.
So make sure you go in the description of wherever you are watching us or listening to us and grab that link because it is actually a checklist of what we're going to go over today.
Oh, good.
So you're going to want to do that.
Mhm.
Also, wherever you're watching us or listening to us, make sure you subscribe so when we're on air, you know we're here and you can grab the next episode. Also, go to Flipping Houses for Rookies, top right-hand side. There's a couple links there. There's a free stuff page there, which we don't talk about too much anymore. It's probably got about 25 or 30 documents and videos and all kinds of free stuff that you can use for creative real estate, as well as a support link. So if you have any questions you want to get to Peter and I directly, you can go there and send me a support ticket, and I will make sure it gets answered. The other thing is if you want to join our little mastermind group, it's called it's on WhatsApp Messenger. It's called Let's Talk Real Estate, and you can join that as well. If you can't find it, just send me a support ticket, and I'll shoot you a link, and you can get right in. Okay, enough of that, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to start off today with some simplicity.
Good.
Okay. And what I'm about to do is going to put the fire of confusion out in one splash.
All right.
And here it is. Once you acquire or have under control, because remember, creative real estate is all about controlling what the paperwork that owns or controls the property.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you
Mhm.
can have a deed, you can have an agreement for deed, you can have
Option.
lease options. What's the matter, sweetheart? So you can have lease options. You can have all kinds of things that will control the property,
Mm-hmm.
right? So realize that owning real estate is not all it chalks up to until you start talking about tax benefits.
Ah.
Then it becomes very beneficial. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
when I say once you acquire or have under your control a piece of property, that's what I mean. You either own it with a deed or you are controlling it with one of these other devices. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's creative real estate in general. People think that the realtors say it's unconventional.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, what's unconventional is what they do because we've been around for thousands of years and realtors haven't been. So
That's
just
right.
realize that, right?
They were here first.
Yeah. So here's what I'm trying to reveal and I'm babbling about, right? So there's only 3 ways to sell real estate and get your money.
Hmm.
And I want to make that simplicity today. Once you understand this, well, actually, your acquisitions become extremely clear.
Yeah.
Because there's only 3 ways to sell the property.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the hundreds of thousands of offers that you could make, because really there's that many, because there's just different variants. I mean, here at Flipping Houses for Rookies, we put them into 7 buckets, right? Which is the slot deal, a sandwich lease option transfer, an option deal, a rent to own, which is when you stay in the deals. It's a sandwich lease option, but you stay in it. There's a subject to or getting the deed, we call it. There's rehab retail, there's wholesale, and then there's owner finance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 7 buckets that we use. But as you found out quickly when you started hanging around with me, you do hybrid deals off of those 7 buckets. Like you take a piece out of this bucket, a piece out of that bucket, kind of like a plumber putting together
Hmm.
a water system in a house. You know what I mean? There's probably 10,000 ways he could run from the water main to the bathroom sink. You know what I mean?
That's right.
It's like, what's the best way to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so acquisitions seems confusing if you don't know that there's only three ways to sell a piece of property.
Hmm.
So, let's talk about that. So the one way that you can sell a piece of property, or the first, it's not the first way, it's just one way. They're not in order, any specific order other
Yeah.
than popularity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, number one, you can sell them for all cash,
Sure.
right? Which is why the realtor system works, right?
Sure. Go to the bank, get the loan, unless you're filthy rich,
Yeah.
and pay cash.
The realtor will make sure that they weed out or pre-qualify people that can't get loans.
Yeah.
And most of the time, those loans come from a conventional bank.
Yep.
Right, or an institutionalized bank. Now
Mm-hmm.
these days, there's hard money, but hard money is 90% of the time, or 70, let's say 75% of the time, it's a bank in disguise. The difference between banks and hard money is hard money will charge you points and higher interest, and the only reason why they're doing that is for speed, because you want to close within a week or two, so they'll pre-qualify you and give you like a line of credit type of thing, and then they'll charge you points, which points are just
prepaid interest.
Yeah, interest without time.
Yeah,
Right?
they
So
charge you interest up front.
Yeah, interest, you need to have time. You need to borrow the money for 30 days before they can charge you interest. With points, there's no time. They just charge you the point. They just charge you the interest.
Yep.
3 points is like 3% interest.
That reminds me of when you get a free offer, free credit card balance transfer. Yeah, sure. And they charge 3, 4, 5% up front.
Yeah.
So you're paying that interest like the year's worth right now, so 3% now, and then it's free, but that ain't free. Sorry.
I could. So
Yep.
So the first way is all cash with
Yeah.
banks. The second way is monthly payments until paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is done without landlord obligations if you know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So this is your rent to own. This is your, owner finance deal. This is your, all the things we talk about. An agreement for deed deal. This is a lease option deal. This is a wraparound mortgage. This is subject to. This is all those deals. You can sell that way just because you buy. It's not likely. I mean, what we do mostly is sell on lease options, right? Because that's the best for us, and it's good for the seller too. I mean, good for the buyer too because of the way it's structured.
Yep.
And then the third way is you can assign it to a third party.
Ah.
So those are the only three ways that you can sell a piece of real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if you don't want to sell, because I know I'm going to get feedback if I don't talk about this support ticket. If you don't want to sell, you could be a landlord, right? For some monthly income, but that's not really selling. That's a whole different ballpark,
right?
And a whole different conversation. Now, like there's people, believe it or not, Peter, I haven't told you this, but I've been working on some stuff, right? And so I've been going to this same place every day for lunch. And I met this lady. I think she's probably in her 70s, well under her 70s. And she's an attorney. She told me that she got her law degree when she was 45 or 50. She got interested in real estate. Right?
Yeah.
She now owns 200 plus units, which is not, she's got like 36 units and 55 units, all this stuff. But she decided, now she's got a son that's pretty sharp. They decided to buy shopping malls, and they bought a shopping mall for 21 million. And they have like Targets and those kind of stores in the shopping mall.
Crazy.
Fascinating lady. She slipped and told me that she's worth a couple $100 million.
Unbelievable.
And just real estate, right? So I was telling you that for a reason, but the point is that
properties, being a landlord, holding.
Yeah. So I mean, she understood subject to and lease options, but she referred to me as I don't do it the way you do it. There's a lot of bank loans and stuff like that.
Mm,
But I mean, I'm sure she's got a lot of debt too, right?
mm.
And so today, we're talking about getting money now, getting money monthly, and getting money later, which in truth is the only way. The only way. Listen to me. I'm not mixing my words. You know me and my words, right?
Mhm.
The only way to retire early.
Yeah.
It is the only way. If you can't get money now, money monthly, and money later consistently, month after month, you do not have a real estate business. You have a hobby.
Yeah.
Okay, because the mastering real estate means you do it the Kiyosaki way,
Mhm.
which you invest in assets because assets give you money,
Yeah.
liabilities take away money, right? Excuse
Mhm.
me. And what you're trying to do is get enough assets to give you enough profit. They call it yield in the stock market,
Yeah.
but to give you enough profit that you never not want to work. You never don't want to work. That's a big confusion. I know one of my partners is like that. He thinks that automation should take over the world. You can't do that.
Mm.
But what Kiyosaki talks about in his cash flow quadrant book is working less. So like
Mhm.
in my real estate business, I literally work, I'm going to say 10 hours a month, but I'm lying because it's probably more like 4 or 5 hours a month.
Mhm.
Right. And that's on my portfolio. That's not buying and selling and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's all properties you own,
Yeah.
and that's what it takes to
And I have
manage them.
I have no property manager. I do a lot of it my own. And it's because of what I'm talking about today. It's the way that I sell them and the expectations that I set my buyers up for and how I kind of like nip it in the bud right up front. I'm a hard ass when I'm selling a house. I'm a hard ass, and you know that. I'm very flaky because I'm like either they play or they go away.
Mhm.
I'm very strict about how I sell my houses, but I put people in houses. I've got one guy. In fact, I just gave it back to my partner because we were kind of not getting along about something, and I just gave him I just walked away from it. But uh, he's got a tenant in there. We got a tenant in been there 16 years.
Mm.
I put him in on a lease option for 2 years. 2 years later, 2 years later, the wife died. He was there with his son. We didn't do anything. He's been there 16 years.
Yeah. And what's the terrible thing about that? You get cash flow every month.
Well, now it's free and clear.
I was going to say it must be paid off by now. So at some point, he either buys it, goes away, and you got all that equity, or the partner does. But whatever deal you made with him, you got your piece too, one way or the
Yeah,
other.
he ripped me off. So here's another little odd fact. But here's the thing: he ripped me off for hundred some odd $1,000,
Hmm.
and I didn't even care. You want to know why?
Yeah.
Because he loses, not me.
Hmm.
He got 100. Getting away from him, I'll make $1 million or more by making more deals because he doesn't know how to do what I do.
Yeah.
He says he does, but I've been away from him for several years now, and he hasn't added to his portfolio.
He was only the money guy.
Well, he thought he was a lot more. Anyways, here's another little odd fact.
Yes.
About 80% of all home shoppers or people looking for property don't qualify for a bank loan.
Right.
Okay. So I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize up front. You can you can fast forward if you want for the next 3 or 4 minutes, but I got to do a bill rant,
Okay.
which means 80% don't qualify for a loan, a bank loan, which means if we don't come along, right, this buyer will continue to yearn for the American dream.
While he rents and rents and rents.
Or they're stuck in a mother-in-law's house, or they're in a relative's house, or they're in some sort of a situation that is not conducive for raising their family or keeping their head straight so they can work and produce, or there's distractions, there's suppression, there's all kinds of things when you're stuffed into a situation that you don't want or don't like or are aggravated by, that the environment's being antagonistic to you. It's horrible.
Yep.
Families growing up in neighborhoods they don't want to be in, kids in school systems that are not good, right? I mean, it just goes on and on. You know, being in neighborhoods that are bad and having things stolen from you, or, I mean, the risk of your children getting on drugs because of the influence of the neighborhood. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
bad school systems because you're inner city instead of suburban. You know, there's just so many scenarios. I mean, I probably can go the rest of the podcast just talking about that. But the point is, they're stuck. They are stuck in the banker's suppressive system of credit scores, which is an effing joke,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
It's just a joke. And they're mislabeled. They're mislabeled as having a colorful past,
Hmm.
right? Here's one of the things before I go on. What I mean by that is it used to be a credit score was how well did you pay your bills.
Sure.
Well, that wasn't enough for the little greedy little bastard called the banker. So a few years ago, they decided, okay, so what we're going to add to the credit score is a utilization rate. So now what they did is they came up with this arbitrary number like, well, people that are good with their money only use about 30% of their credit. So that means if you got a $10,000 credit line, they only want you to use $3,000 to consider you a good risk. Complete arbitrary.
Yeah. Well, the bank in the first place thought you were good enough to give you the $10,000 limit. Now they only want you to use 3. You're not good. You're good for the 3. You're good for the 10. Pick one.
So that's the craziness.
It's
of
kind
it.
of
You're
2-faced.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
So they make us feel like we're second-class citizens because of a handful of the most suppressive people on planet Earth trying to control the world, right?
Yep.
To me, this is much like the Joker or the Penguin or the Fiddler and Poison Ivy on the Batman series.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
They're villains.
Wait a minute. It's not the Fiddler. It's the Riddler.
Oh, the Riddler. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I misread myself here. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I knew that. But it's like we're in Gotham City, right? and we have these villains, you know, like the Riddler's doing one thing and the Penguin's on the ground doing another thing, and Poison Ivy, yeah, and creative real estate, and you doing creative real estate and you finding these deals so you could help these buyers. You're literally like Batman. So this is way more than money to me. Okay. Yeah. And I know I'm rambling on and we're already 22 minutes in and I got a bunch of stuff I got to do here. So, and I'm sorry that I rambled on so long, but if you don't get this viewpoint, honestly, I promise you, you won't do well, because creative real estate is not about the money. The money is a good side effect.
Mm.
It's about helping people. You're changing lives. You're altering the state of America. You're actually making it so people can have the American dream. You are a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
People don't know you exist. You walk out your front door, you walk to the right, you walk to the left, you find the first person. Let's say you walk out your front door and you walk to the right and you walk down and you meet somebody. You say, hey, do you know somebody around here that can buy my house today? And they'll give you a name of a realtor.
Yeah.
I said, no. I want somebody that can buy my house today. Do you know somebody here that's around here that's a creative real estate specialist?
Mm.
They'll tell you, I don't even know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's our obligation. It's our duty to be able to know this stuff and understand it so we can help people live better lives. End of story. And by doing that, and this is all Kiyosaki, I'm on the Kiyosaki kick this morning.
Okay.
He put that in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You having problems with money? Go find somebody else that's having problems with money and help them.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, your money problems will seem simplistic.
Mm.
He said that in Rich Dad, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so enough of the rant. You have a creative real estate deal. Now what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rattle off some main actions. Okay.
Okay.
Well, because we have a time issue and I don't want to have a seminar here, right? I'm actually revealing too much already because I don't like to teach on the podcast, although lately I've been doing that. But because there's more detail to it, I put the link to the checklist inside of the description. So you can go click on it and there's a description there. I have sold this thing multiple times for years. It's in our creative REI replay system, which you have to pay hundreds of dollars a month to get it. It's absolutely more valuable than me giving it away to you for free. But I'm trying to help you here, because if you understand how to sell a house, then the acquisitions, it's kind of like a pipe, Peter, like a water pipe. On the left side, let's say you got a 3-foot pipe or a hose. On the left side, you have the input of the water. On the right side, you have the output of the water.
Mm-hmm.
So if you plug the right side and don't let the water come out, what's going to happen?
Well, you're going to get stuck. And just not knowing what to do on the selling end can make you nervous about actually moving ahead.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is, if you plug the right side of the pipe is going to fill up with water and it's just going to stay stagnant.
Yep. It's going to sit
So
there.
this happens a lot with people with money. It's like if you hang on to money, if you're cheap and stingy and you hang on to money, sooner or later you fill up the pipe, and after a while you're going to stop attracting money.
Yep.
Right. So you gotta know how to unplug the outflow, because if you have enough outflow, you'll get more inflow.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So let's get down to the checklist. So number 1, and these are arbitrary numbers, so we can keep track of them verbally for our listeners. All right. So once you get a deal, and this is not actually on the checklist, I should put it on there, but I'm being lazy. Don't want to change it. And I know I'm going to get questions on this. So I'm going to try to spend a couple minutes to explain it so I don't get a lot of questions. Okay. So once you get a deal, the first thing you should do is you should do a title search. Now, the question first of all, what is a title search? So here's what happens is it's called a chain of title. So a title is like, I'm a plumber is a title. Right. I'm the president of the United States is a title. I'm a train operator. That's a title. So that means it's a hat or a description of what you do. So that's what title means. A deed clarifies who has that right to make those decisions. So when you're on title with real estate, that means you are the decision maker, you're top dog, and you're noted as the person to make the decisions. Okay, so the title is, when you say you have title on property, that means that whoever's name is on title, okay, is in charge.
Okay. The
deed is the declaration of saying this is the person that's in charge. So if my deed says Bill Hawthorne is on title for 123 Main Street, the deed is the declaration or the physical appearance that I'm on title.
Right.
Once you're on title means you make all the decisions, right? So the buck stops with you. So what happens is there's a thing called a title insurance, which you should always buy on a property. If you're going to acquire a deed, you should get title insurance. And what the title insurance means is, if for some reason there's a mistake, you make a mistake, which very often it won't be you, it will be your attorney. I've had many attorneys make a lot of mistakes. So your closing agent or your attorney will make a mistake, and then all of a sudden, 10 years down the road, somebody else is buying the property. You probably haven't owned it for 10 years. And somebody else is buying the property, and they do a search, and they come back and they say, oh, Bill made a mistake on the title, so Bill's responsible to fix it because I'm in the chain of title. So you buy insurance so that if that happens, the title company will get all their lawyers and everybody and fix it on your behalf. So for $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever it is, it's well worth the protection. So that's how title insurance works. Why am I talking about this? Because when you do a title search, It's the insurance company going back through the records and seeing if there's any problems before they insure it.
Yeah.
They're little bastards, right? So the object is for them to take your money and not have to have a claim.
Well, if somebody made a mistake years ago, they should fix it, right? That back then, if they take the insurance now, they get stuck with it, right?
Right, that's right. That's
So,
exactly right.
okay.
So the reason why I explain all this is because the title search is a way of you finding out if there's problems with the title, whether you can pass it or not. And they
Right.
usually cost $150 to $250 to do, depending
Yeah.
on where you are. But it will go back and find out if the title company will insure it, you're good.
Yep.
Why do we do this? We do this to make sure, even if you're doing a lease option.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on a slot deal, you don't have to worry about it because that's between seller and buyer. But if you're
Yeah.
going to stay in the lease option and you're on, so you get a lease option agreement with your seller, right? And then you set, and then you raise all the prices. And you make a separate set of documents for your buyer. So you have two sets of lease options, and you're in the middle. You're going to want to make sure you can execute the deed when your buyer decides they want to buy the property. Okay, so you want to do a title search. I've not talked about this very much because I think I think it complicates things. People make too much out of it. So whether you're doing whether you're getting a deed or you're controlling a property, it would be worthwhile to know that if you're telling somebody, I'm going to give you a lease with an option for 2 years, and if you once you get qualified for a mortgage, you come to me and I'll sell you the house. Well, you should make sure you can sell them the house.
So anytime you're promising somebody that they can have the house, you got to make sure that you can give them the house.
Deliver, yeah.
You're right. That makes sense. But it's just keeping you out of trouble.
Right. Okay, good. So I hope I clarified that. So number two, what you need to do is you need to verify all the documents that you did with the seller, so you know you can do work without any flashback later on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you're in my system or our system, the documents I use are proven. I've used them hundreds of times between myself and students. I even have documents for Texas. Okay.
Okay.
So I know my documents work. They've been tested. I've had lawyers. I mean, I've got documents inside of our system that I paid $6,000 for one document. I've got documents I paid $3,000 or $4,000 for the documents, like my lease options. I paid $3,000 or $4,000 for them, and then sent them to my lawyer and spent more money, another $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and this is not all at once. This is over the course of years as I needed them, right? But what I'm telling you is you don't need to do that because nowadays things are different. So even if you're not using my documents, and I'm not telling you to go buy my documents, if you go on to like eform.com and get a lease with an option, that works. At least to do your first couple of deals anyways and get some money going, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that forever, but you're not going to get the tight contracts we have where we can actually sell without the landlord obligations. You're not going to get that. A realtor is not going to do that for you. A realtor's going to do contracts for you and that's what's going to be in eForms is the realtor's documents, and they're going to have a lot of landlord obligations in there.
I see.
But in any event, if you download from like eforms.com or one of those places, just go to, I use Legal Shield. There's others, but Legal Shield is really good. For $25 a month, they give you advice. They'll give you an attorney in your backyard, meaning your city or your state, and you can draft up a set of documents, send them in, and say, is this legal in my state or my city? And go check them. So you don't need to get stuck with all that. But my point is to make sure you have all your seller documents, at least for your first deal or two. In the beginning, it's like worrying about documents. After you know that your documents are good, what I do is I try to make checklists, put them in the folders, so that what I'm talking about is you go through your folder, you go through your checklist, and you make sure all the documents you need to control that property is in the folder. They're signed and they're in order. Mm-hmm. So when you go back to them, because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. What's going to happen is after a while, when you start doing multiple deals, you're not going to remember the deals, number one. At least I don't. And you're not going to remember all the conversations. Don't rely on your memory. If it's not written, it's not true. So write everything down. I take pictures, I take photocopies, I do everything I can to build the story inside the folder. So no matter if I die, my family can go back and they can go inside the folders and they can read the history of what I did inside those folders, right? I know that my partner Sean, he likes everything to be electronic. I don't like that. I want to read the story. I want to know what's going on with the property when I bought it. So in my folders, I'm way out of bounds here, but in my folders, I have like a green, oh shit, I have a green folder, right? And in my filing cabinet. I'm sorry, hang on a second.
Did we spill?
No, I had the fan on and it blew my sheet away.
Oh.
And I have a green folder, right? And inside the green folder, I have manila folders. And there's one for acquisition. There's one for the money I spend, the rehab and all the money, and I keep all my checks and everything in there, all the money I spent. And then there's another one for when I'm selling, all the leases and stuff like that. The money folder is the one I use all the time. So as I pay my bills, so every month when I pay my mortgages and when I pay the taxes, that all goes in. That's an ongoing folder. That's a life continuum type folder. It just continues and continues and continues.
Got it.
So now sometimes what I'll do is if I'm doing a renovation, I'll make a separate folder. A lot of times I keep the renovation in the money folder, and keep it separate. But if I'm doing a renovation, I'll have a separate folder for that, so it doesn't get all confused.
That makes sense.
That makes sense? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So number 3, make sure the property is secure. Okay, so after you've done all this, which by the way, once you start doing a couple deals, you've done this a couple times, these steps are very simple. They don't take very long time, right? So now remember, if you did not do a deal and get the deed, like you're doing an agreement for deed, if you did a deal and you didn't get a deed or an agreement for deed,
okay,
which means you did an option or a lease option or a slot deal, anything with an option agreement, I strongly suggest you do not put money into the property because the property will steal that money. Something will happen and it will steal the money. You're at risk. Now, a lot of gurus talk about no money in real estate is $5,000 or less. So they can say you can spend less than $5,000. I don't agree with that. I think it should be less than that. But if the property is ugly, you should probably not take it in as a lease option, which goes back to how I started the podcast, because there's 3 ways to sell a property: all cash, monthly payments until paid, and assign it. So ugly properties are 1 and 3.
Okay.
Pretty properties are all 3, but mostly number 2.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds so simple, doesn't it, Peter?
Yeah, I don't think you've ever mentioned it like that to me, at least.
It took me 30 years to figure that out.
Okay.
Seriously. All right. So we're talking about right now. So I'm going to get into the details for the thinker brain. So we're talking about making sure the property is sellable.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not going too fast or doing anything wrong. Am I?
No, it's fine. No, it's fine.
Am I okay?
Yeah. Well, you're saying if a property is really kind of ugly that you wouldn't be able to lease it, it's not one of those. You have to do something else with it.
Yeah, so there's a few variants there, because I know a few years ago, it's been quite a few years now at this point. I think it's been probably almost 10 years, but I know you were with me. So whatever time, however long you've been with me, one of the realizations I had is I was done with contractors.
Yeah.
I just was done with that. So necessity level itself made me go do something that others knew about. I didn't know about. I thought I was inventing something, but it wasn't true. I just had gotten to a certain point. And so I just started buying properties that I could sell as a handyman special, which meant it's what REO is real estate owned, bank properties, call insurable or non-insurable properties. Meaning that the buyer can go get insurance for the property and live in it.
And they won't insure it if it's not livable.
Right.
So that's how you know it's livable. It says, hey, it's livable, it's not livable. Well, if they insure it, you know it's livable.
And the insurance companies inspect them, so they know. So like there has to be a furnace in it. There has to be water and electricity, right? It can't be like, you know, a renovation that has all the studs in the property and there's like wires sticking out of the boxes, right? So it's an insurable property.
Yeah.
It also means the roof's not linking, you know. So what happened was, as I started doing insurable properties, I just would buy those, right? And what I would do is I would sell them as a handyman special. These are the classic probate deals. Like, you know, mom and pa lived there for 50 years and they hadn't updated the kitchen in the last 25 years. So the kitchen is very functional, but it's like 1990s or 1970s or something. It's functionable, but it's not current every day. So what I do is I start buying those properties as if I was going to pay cash for them. You know, the Ron LeGrand Mayo formula, maximum allowable offer, which is the after renovated value, the pretty house price times 70% minus repairs, which is usually about 50 or 55% of the price, right?
Yeah.
I'd buy it for that, and then I would sell it for 70 cents on a dollar or 75 cents on a dollar. And just give the buyer equity for putting his sweat in.
Sure. And some people like that. They want to go in and fix the house the way they want, paint it the way they want. They're happy to do that.
Right. So just realize I only did those deals when I was getting a deed.
Right. You're not spending money on someone else's property. Like if you're renting, you wouldn't do that. It's the same thing. You don't own it. Why would you do some renovating in a place you're renting? You wouldn't do it.
And you and I talked a lot about prehabbing, which is getting it up to a point where at least we can sell it, right? Okay, so we're way off topic. So here's a list of things that you need to do right away once you get a property. Okay. So this is important. I'm going to rattle through these because I don't want to spend too much time on them, but I'll stop on a few of them. So
but it's on the checklist.
Yeah, it's on the checklist. Okay. So make sure the heat or the AC is on. Believe it or not, I can spend the next 20 minutes just talking about this. Don't be cheap. Don't turn the heat off. Don't turn the air conditioning off. No, I owned a used car lot for 20 years. Okay, 15 years. Well, I owned the gas station for 27 years. But out of that, probably about 12 or 15 years, I own cars.
Yeah.
It's what we called lot rot.
Mm.
What happened was if a car sat on a lot too long, like say 2 or 3 months or 4 months, a buyer comes along and buys it and they start driving the car, and sure as shit for the first 30 days, things like happen. They break and they this and they that, you know, they get a flat tire, the battery goes dead, the exhaust breaks, you know. It was because the car wasn't used. Cars are made to be used. Houses are exactly the same way. And I can tell you one of the most detrimental things you can do to a house is temperature.
Wow. Yeah.
Too cold, too hot. Now, doesn't mean that you can't winterize a house and just shut it off. I mean, that's okay, but you know, realize it's usually wood. Most of them, I mean, there's a lot of brick houses, but they expand and contract. So when they do that, mechanical things happen.
Yeah.
They can, you know, they get bigger and smaller with the heat and the cold. So you're better off to just try to keep them at the same temperature.
Right. But it can be, it doesn't have to be like living temperature. You drop it down to whatever, right?
Yeah. I like 45, 50 degrees. Like right now I'm in Florida, my house at home. I think I put the thermostat at 45 degrees, right? 50 degrees. It doesn't have to be horrendous, especially like in Florida with the heat and stuff. Heat does a lot of damage to a house.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Make sure the place is clean. Now, here's the amazing thing is, and when you go through this checklist with me, I'm not going to keep bringing it up. I'm just going to bring it up once. I've already talked about it once. You don't put any money into the house, right? If you don't own, if you're doing a lease, you don't put any money in the house. But it costs nothing for you other than your time to go clean a house. Clean sells.
Yeah.
Right? It could be an ugly house, but it doesn't have to have garbage. It doesn't have to be disorderly. It doesn't have to have things scattered all over. You know, nice and neat and organized, you know. Yeah. So if the kitchen is old, doesn't mean that you can't clean the counter.
And make it smell right. You know, just make it, you know, like fresh. You get the wife, get the husband, get the kids, you know, clean it up and go buy pizza.
So exactly right. So go buy pizza. So The next thing you want to do, and I do this all the time. So this is a little bit of a topic I could talk about for quite a while, but I'm not going to because we are so far behind. It's ridiculous. So taking pictures.
Yeah.
I like to take pictures immediately. The first thing I do is when I get a property, I go take pictures so I know the state that the seller gave it to me
Yeah.
is
That's
in,
evidence.
right? So I know as soon as I do a closing, the very first thing I don't give in, the keys go in my personal pants pocket until I go or somebody, either me or my daughter, or somebody goes and takes pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Then I start doing things because I want to know the state of the condition of the house, right? So
Yeah.
when I talk about taking pictures, here's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about standing in front of the house, to the left of the house, in the center of the house, and to the right of the house. So you're
Mm-hmm.
walking on the street or the sidewalk. So on left, so you have three different angles: left, center, right. Same thing with the backyard.
Hmm.
When you're inside the house, you make sure that light is behind you. So you stand with the windows behind you. If there's a light in the ceiling, you make sure that the light doesn't wash out the picture.
Yeah.
Okay, so light is very important. Make sure light is behind you, not in front of you.
Hmm.
This way, here later on, I've had things like, oh my God, was there a stain on the floor? Was there an outlet there? Was there water stains? And because there's light in pictures, I can't tell. And I'm there, I'm 2 years later, 3 years later, 5 years later, trying to figure it out. So just take my advice on that, okay?
Yep.
I also I do more of it now that I'm with you than I did before, but I go to Walmart or someplace like that, and I get those Glade plug-in things,
Mm-hmm.
and I put them in the hallways. I try to put them in all the hallways. I try to put some Glade. I don't use the berries and I try not to use any of that. I try to just literally get like baking cookies, or something. It doesn't. I don't want a smell
Yeah.
from the Glade. What I want it to do is to eliminate stale air. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
want you to walk in and smell the like perfume.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be like just an ambiance.
Well, it's more like a home. A home would smell like a
Yeah.
cookie or vanilla.
Yeah.
Something that's just like a house, not stinky stuff.
Yeah. You don't want perfume, right? So I make sure I do that, and then and you and I could tell this story, but I don't have time today. But make sure all the light bulbs work. I've not sold houses, and it's cost me thousands of dollars in holding costs because I walk through a house and light bulbs don't work. So
Or cheap fluorescent dingy ones that look sad and scary and
so
gross.
don't make sure all the light bulbs work, and that's so major. That will I could talk for another 20 minutes on that. So make sure the light bulbs work. You don't want dark spots in the house, right?
Yeah.
Most important, make sure there's toilet paper in all the bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't want to have a woman, and make sure there's soap on the sink and a towel to wipe your hands. You don't want to have a woman in there with her family and she can't go to the bathroom and she's like, let's go. I got to go to the bathroom. And they leave the house. You don't want that. I sound chauvinistic. I'm sorry, but women buy houses, not men. I don't care what anybody tells me, and you can attack me all you want, you trolls, whoever's going to do that. But women buy houses. Okay? So make sure that when you go in, there's toilet paper there and there's soap and a way to, and also this is very important. Make sure the toilets flush, right? Because people will come in and use them and they won't flush and they'll leave it. They'll crap in the toilets and pee in the toilets, and you'll come in days later and the whole house will stink.
Oh, gross.
They will do it because they won't check the toilet to see if it's working. They just assume that it's working and they will mess it up. Make sure the refrigerator. Go ahead.
You also want to be sure that there's not water leaking like in a toilet, so that you're wasting water bills. That can be expensive.
Yeah, that's right. Make sure that it's not running. Yeah. Most people don't know this, but when you go down to a water meter in a house, there's numbers there.
Mm-hmm.
On the left side of the numbers, usually there is a tiny circle, and inside of it, it has a triangle.
Yeah.
If that triangle is bouncing, like moving, the triangle is moving, that means there's a leak in the house somewhere. That means the water's leaking. There's a leak in the house.
Wow.
That means the water's running and causing the meter to go up.
Yeah. Well, I had that problem in my house. They had to dig it up out of the ground to see what the meter
Yeah.
was saying. Yeah. It was bad.
All right. So obviously, make sure there's decent curb appeal. I mean, even if the house is ugly, even if the just it doesn't. I mean, you're very good with this. I'm not as good as you are, but make sure the grass is cut. Make sure if there's bushes out front, it doesn't cost anything to trim them.
Mm-hmm.
A couple hours to trim them, even if the house is ugly. I can't tell you how many houses I bought, and because we safe point the neighbors, we go to the neighbors. When we go there, we introduce ourselves and all that. Just by taking the bushes off the house, like just manual labor,
Yeah.
just taking the bushes off the house, and just even if there's just a garden bed and there's nothing in it, it looks a million times better.
Sure. Then overgrown and gross.
Yeah.
Also, you mentioned this many times to me. Like, just look up and down the street and see what
Yep.
you got. Make sure your house isn't like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I did. I walked up and down my street one day and looked at my house like, okay, and we fixed it up nice.
Right.
But you want it to not be way worse than the neighborhood. If it's decent, up to it, or better than, you're in better shape.
Right. Exactly. All right. Good. So we need to keep cruising here because I'm way behind. Make
Mhm.
sure you leave a light on outside, especially wherever I put the lockbox, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Right. So
Mhm.
make sure you leave a light on, or
Yep.
make sure when you walk in the house, when you first walk in, there's a light in like the little foyer area or wherever you're going to be. If you
Mhm.
can, not every house will allow you to do that, but you don't want people walking into a dark house.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing you're going to do is make sure you have 2 or 3 sets of keys because people are going to lose keys on you. So make sure you have master copies. So
Yeah.
go to Home Depot and get the keys made and go back to the house and make sure you test them. Make sure you
Oh,
test them.
yeah, right. And don't put them all in the lockbox. Keep a
Yeah.
couple in your own pocket, one in the car, one in your
Yeah.
pocket. Give one to someone else.
Yeah, that's the reason why. Just what Peter says. I have a little thing, a little case in my car, and I keep all the keys. Plus, I used to. I don't anymore. Plus, I have a box at the house. So that's why you have 2 or 3 because I have a box at the house, I have a box in the car, and then there's keys in the house. So
Yeah.
there's plenty of
With the
plenty of
little tags and addresses.
yes. Okay, and you get all this stuff at Home Depot. It's very cheap. Put a
Hmm.
lockbox on the front of the house, or put a lockbox on the entry point of the house. Usually wherever the light is, so they can get in at night, right? And then make sure the garbage pails, like the trash pails, are not like. First of all, they're empty, and second of all, they're not like on the front steps and making the place look crappy.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So here we go. We're on to number 4. I don't know how we got to number 4, but we're number 4. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create what I call a flyer pack.
Hmm.
What that consists of is what I call an MLS sheet. The first page of the flyer pack, which we leave on the front counter, is a picture of the house and how much it cost.
Hmm.
You have to realize that once we sell a house, the only time we're ever going to talk about the price is on this MLS sheet. So they have to go into the house, go to the kitchen, get this flyer pack before they know how much the house costs.
Hmm.
Okay, you want them to do that, right? So the flyer pack goes like this: is the MLS sheet, which talks about it's got a picture of the house, got all the prices and all the numbers on it, and then the second page is all the properties you have for sale. If you have other properties, if they leave there with directions from this house to the next house, I can't tell you how many houses. If I have 3 or 4 houses for sale, how many houses I've sold. They find one, they don't like it, they'll drive 2 towns over and look at the other one and buy that one. Okay.
Cool.
Next one is frequently asked questions about how your programs work. Like what is the lease option, what is owner financing, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
It's very helpful and answers a lot of the pre-qualifying questions. So by the time they call you, they understand. Then the next piece of paper is what I call the next step form. That's one whole piece of paper talking about how much money do you have down, because that's the most important part. That's going to be our major decision
Mm.
point on whether they're going to go in the house or not, right?
Hmm.
And then the last part of the flyer pack is the full application.
Yeah.
Right? So make sure all your documents have on the bottom of it a way for them to return the documents to you, instructions on how to return them to you, and
Hmm.
your contact information. Lately, what I do is I tell people fill out the application and text me a picture of it.
Right.
We used to do faxing, we used to do scanning, we used to do all. It's just easier. It's cumbersome for me to be able to read them, but it's the fastest way. You'll get them back quick, because
Yeah.
eventually what's going to happen is if I close with them, I'm going to make them do all those documents over again.
Oh, okay.
All right. So number 5, you're going to record a voice message describing the house, and this should include, and please, this is worth the checklist alone, because too many people. I have 2 or 3 coaching clients that are doing this wrong right now, and they can't sell houses.
Ew.
So here's what your voice message should include: no more, no less. Don't add to it.
Mm.
Number 1, houses for sale with no bank qualifying. Thanks for calling a real estate hotline. I want you to know that we have a house for sale at 123 Main Street, and it's for sale with no bank qualifying. That's it. You want to keep a mystery sandwich. Then you want to give them the address. You can find the property at 123 Main Street, right? And if it's a unit number, make sure the unit number's there. It has 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. That's the next thing. You're going to do amount of beds and baths, and any benefits like a pool, hot tub, amenities.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to love this house because it's got a beautiful deck that overlooks the Appalachian Mountains. Whatever it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Then what I do is I give them simple directions from a main attraction. Every place has a main attraction. So coming from Walmart, you would take a right out of the parking lot. You would go down 3 miles, take a left, or whatever. From the post office, you would do this, or from the grocery store, or from the tower in the middle of the road, or wherever, a main attraction. You give them simple directions if you could. Right.
Okay.
Nowadays we don't worry about that because GPS, but back in the day we didn't have that. Right.
Right.
And I always tell them that they can view the property 24 hours, 7 days a week, because the houses I sell are vacant. If you're doing a slot deal, that would be a little bit different, where you can lump them. You can make arrangements. There's other ways to do that. Because the way we sell them is either group, like you go in and make an appointment like an open house, or you can sell them individually, right?
Yeah.
So here's the amazing thing is, if you download my checklist, I actually put a recording on the checklist. You can click in it and you can listen to me. One of the ads I use for one of our houses.
Nice.
Okay. So realize this. You do not want to put how much you're selling the house for. I already told you that. You don't want them to know any of that until they have walked through the house and they think that this is a house they want to live in.
Mm.
All right. Because otherwise you'll get a bunch of tire kickers. They'll ask a bunch of questions they don't need to be asking, like, how many bedrooms, how many square feet. It's stuff you don't need to deal with, right?
Sure.
So what happens is you're only contacting, when you do it this way, when you hide the applications in the house, you're only contacting the people that have seen the house, they've gone through your pre-qualification process, and you're only talking to people that sent you applications filled out and they're ready to talk, right? You don't talk to anyone else unless they've done all that.
Yep.
If they haven't done that, if you don't know how much they have for down payment, what their income is, how much, when they're ready to move, you're beating your head against the wall and you're going to have blood in your eyes pretty soon.
Well, a lot of people will respond to these.
Yeah.
So, it's not like you need people. There's plenty.
Yeah. If you
And
do
that's
what
all,
we're talking,
that's all in the application, all that stuff.
that's right. If you do what we're talking about, what Peter's saying is we'll get 150, 200 people to respond to the ad. We'll get minimally 30 or 40 people through the house to get 1 to 5 applications. So you don't want to deal with those 200 and then the 40. You want to deal with the 1 to 5 applications if you can.
Yeah.
Okay. So number 7, I have good luck putting 12 to 15 handwritten signs around the neighborhood. Okay. Not everybody's going to do this, but we've had good luck with it. The signs, they're corrugated plastic. The bandit signs, I order them blank with H-frames, which the H-frames are what sticks them in the ground.
Yeah.
I handwrite them with a black marker. I do this myself. And they say, first line, house for sale. Second line, no bank qualifying. Third line, the phone number. Fourth line, 24/7 recorded message. And I just gave you what that message is.
Yep.
Number 7, I use Freedom Voice or hosted numbers or Pat Live if you want to have people answer the phone live. So when they call in, the recorded message is there. So I use Freedom Voice or hosted numbers or Pat Life. Okay. Number 8, inside the house, when you set it up, when you first walk in the front door, I have an easel with a whiteboard on it. The whiteboard is what, 3 by 4, 3 feet by 4 feet, I think, or 3 by 3 or 2 by 3 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And basically, I put 3 points on there. Number 1, I put on the top, welcome to the house. And then I put number 1, make sure you walk around and this is the house that you can envision yourself living in for a long time. Number 2, bring back whoever's going to make the decision with you or are going to live here with you so they can decide with you. And number 3, go to the kitchen counter and get the flyer pack. All the details are there. And I put that like, and you and I have had little wars on this. You don't know this, but you and I have had little wars on this because
we did.
Yeah.
What?
I like to put it like when they walk in the house, it's like right when you open the door, it's in the way. They like actually hit the easel. And then you'll like move it back, and I'll move it forward, and I'll move it back, because I want them to like trip over it. I want it to be like in the way, so it's like in their way and they can't miss it.
They have to read it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the next thing I do is this is out of order. Actually, I should have talked about this before. So the bandit signs, the 15 bandit signs we put around the neighborhood. And they give the address. They go to their free recorded message, which I told you how to do, and it gives the directions. They get to the house. Once they get to the house, usually on the front door or someplace very visible, like when they're trying to get in the house, like in a window or someplace that's very visible, I take a corrugated plastic sheet, a bandit sign, and I write in there, if you want to get in this house right now, call this number. That number goes to a Freedom Voice or whatever, and it gives them the lockbox code. Nowadays, we do it different in Creative REI Replay, because in Creative REI Replay, we actually text them, and they send in a picture of a driver's license. I can tell you I've been doing this a long time, and I have not had trouble with people going in houses, because I tell them on the free recorded message, we monitor the house, and police take notice.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna, and the way we do that is if you use Freedom Voice or hosted numbers or Creative REI Replay, you're gonna have a list of who entered the house, mostly by caller ID, the phone numbers.
Yeah.
So if anything happened, you just give the list to the police department and they'll go investigate. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. So, honestly, yeah. Anyways, I'll get to that in a minute. So number 10.
Hey, Bill, I want to clear something up. When you told us what's on the bandit sign, when you described it, you didn't have the address on. So should we or shouldn't have the address on?
No, it should just be 4 lines. House for sale.
Okay.
No bank qualifying. Phone number. Free recorded message. The free recorded message gives the address.
Got it. Okay.
Right? The reason why you're going to do that, which I don't have time to talk about today, but the reason why you're going to do that is realize this. There's so much to this. I could do a whole weekend seminar just on this, on all of this stuff, because there's so much to it.
Sure.
People call into your free recorded message. You're going to you're going to capture the ID, right? You're going to capture the phone number. Okay. So do you or do you not have all those phone numbers?
You do.
So there's 200 of them, right?
Yeah. Okay,
good. You buy another house. Guess what?
You got all those numbers now.
And you can do a voice. We used to use voiceshot.com, voiceshot, SOSHOT, voiceshot.com, and you do a voice blast. So all those 200 people, hey, I just bought another house. I thought you might be interested.
Got it.
And you send traffic to it. Okay, so.
There's a method to the madness, in other words.
Always.
So just follow the instructions for now. You'll see later.
All right, so 10, make sure you tell them, in your messages, all your messages, everything you tell them, people are like robots. You got to like tell them what to do. I'm being facetious, but it's true. You got to tell them to shut off the lights and shut the door. Too many damn winter times I go there and they just leave the door open, right? Put the key back in the lockbox. The way I do that is I scare them. I tell them, I know when you've been in the house. If you don't put the key back in the lockbox, I will be calling you or I will be sending somebody to your house to like reprimand you, type of thing.
They get the key and
to put the key back in the box, because we know who you are. If they think that they don't know who you are, they will do all kinds of stuff. Okay. So keep repeating that. Even put a sign on the door. Don't forget,
Yeah.
like when they're leaving, right?
Mhm.
So you want them to make sure they shut the lights off, which is not a big deal, but shut the lights off and shut the door and put the key back in the lockbox.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that all different ways. I've been mean about it. I've been nice about it, but it doesn't matter. Just do it. Okay. All right. So now that you got this puppy set up and you're ready to go, you need to do something very important. And I wish I had time because I would tell you a story. What I'm about to tell you, the very first time it happened to me, it cost me $8,000 or $8,800 to not do this.
Yeah.
Maintenance.
Huh.
Maintenance.
Yeah.
You need to check the house every day if you could. Actually, I do them about every 3 days, every 2 to 3 days.
Yeah.
What makes a difference for me is the temperature. So I'm in Connecticut, so we have cold seasons.
Mm.
So in the winter, I go every couple days. Here's the reason why. It's because I had a house one time in Plainville, Connecticut. I was checking the house once a week. I walked in the house one day and it's cold as shit. It cost me $8,800 because for some God knows reason that I still haven't figured out to this day, the furnace worked perfectly fine. There was oil in it. Everything was fine. There was a blurp in the furnace and it didn't fire and it set off the reset button.
Yeah.
And it stopped working and the house froze.
Yep.
It took me 3 or 4 days thawing that house out. Me in the house every day. I had to go rent heaters. It was just a nightmare. So people are going in and out of the house. They leave their McDonald's packages in there. Their kids pee on the floor. I mean, there's just it's disgusting what people will do. So you need to go through the house and make sure somebody's checking it. So I suggest in extreme temperatures, you go in every couple of days. If it's not an extreme temperature situation, you can do it at least once a week, but you have to do it. I suggest the more frequent, the better, because because people do weird things, you will see. So even if it's not you, you can pay like a stay-at-home mom, $15 an hour to go there. I mean, it would cost you $50 a week or something like that. Just have somebody go through the house and make sure. I go through and make sure there's flyers on the flyer packs on the counter. Like I used to. We don't do it anymore because we use Creative REI Replay, which I'll talk about in a second. But I would go make like 50 flyer packs. I always put 10. I'd make a sign out of the corrugated plastic. Please take one, and I would leave 10 on the counter, and the rest I would hide in the kitchen cabinets. And I wouldn't put them all in one place because people steal them. So I'd put, some here in this drawer, some in that cabinet, some over there, right? I've even put them in the freezer of a house one time. And it's because when you go there, you want to be able to replenish the flyer packs, okay? But I want to confess, like I just talked about, since we've invented and created, because that's what we did, Creative REI Replay, Sean, who's my other partner, Sean Scherf, has done an amazing job of teaching me that I'm an old timer and that I don't need to be doing it this way. And so honestly, he's taken the complete monkey off our backs. This is how we do this when we live 1,500 miles away. It's all automated in Creative REI Replay. Like in Creative REI Replay, you put a Zillow ad up, right? Which I skipped over that. I don't even know why I did that. I skipped over that.
The advertising?
Yeah, the advertising. I don't know where the hell that is.
Yeah.
Oh.
You have it there?
Yeah, I had it written down. I don't know where it is.
Oh.
So we usually advertise them on Facebook Marketplace. We do, which they're finicky. You'll get kicked off of Facebook if you do that. Marketplace, anyways. But that's a good place to do it. Zillow's a good place. Problem with Zillow is you have to put the number, the price in the house. So what we do is we put them under the for rent section. So we don't have to put the for sale number in there, because if you put them on there for rent, then you can just put the monthly rent in there and not the for sale price.
Yeah.
Apartments.com is a good place. Craigslist, believe it or not, Craigslist is a great place. Craigslist still works. I don't know why, but it does. It still works.
Yeah, people look there.
So what we do is we'll go, when we show you how to do this in Creative REI Replay, we'll show you how to actually make the ad. We'll put the words. We give you the words so you know how to make the ad. and then we pull a number for a dollar. I think it's $1.24 a month for a number, or $1.05 or something like that for a number, a phone number.
Mm-hmm.
We take that phone number and assign it to the house so we can keep track of the calls coming in. And we just put that number in our ads. And once that number is initiated by a potential buyer, it goes into Creative REI Reply, and it does a couple things. Number one, it builds a buyer's list. So at 1 or 2 houses, you usually have 300, 400, 500 people on your buyer's list, which is a great thing to tell your seller. Oh, if I buy your house, I've got 385 people on my buyer's list. I can send them a text tomorrow.
Mm.
Right? That's a good way to buy houses. Also, what happens is all the like when they go to the house, we have a sign on the house, and well, they know everything because they're texted everything.
Yeah.
So the entire process is about 90% of the process or more is all automated. So, and it literally takes Sean, it used to take him an hour. It used to take me a couple hours to set a house up. Now it literally takes like 15 minutes, if that.
Wow.
So it's very easy. You get text on your phone, you get reminders. Basically, the only time you deal with any type of a house in Creative REI Replay when you're selling it is when somebody's at the front door and they're sending you a driver's license, and the system sends you a notification on your phone saying, can this person go in your house? And you answer yes or no. You go in the system, all the applications are in there, everything is done, and it's all done on their phones. We send them the flyer pack, we send them everything. And it works. I mean, I have tenants in houses. I have no idea, other than looking at their driver's license, I have no idea what they look like. I just know their name. I've done contracts with them, and I never met them.
Crazy.
Yeah. All right. So the reason why this is so important, and I talk about this, and I know we're 11 minutes past the hour here, but I'm just going to take another minute or two to just explain this. The most amazing phenomenon that you will run into when you are a rookie or when you start doing this, even you do this, and even I have this problem right now, Peter, where your attention goes, energies flow, results show. So if your attention's on, I don't have a house, and all your attention goes on the acquisition, and it's really hard because it took you a year or a decade to get your first house. The first thing that you do is you take your attention off of acquisitions and then say, okay, I got to go sell this house now.
Sure.
Right? So your attention comes off of the outflow for acquisitions and it goes on to how am I going to sell this house? Right? And then you sell the house and it comes back to acquisitions, and it's a month later or 2 weeks later or 3 months later, whatever it is. This especially happens on rehabs when you spend 3 months rehabbing a house. You are struggling with this. I know I have in the past. Don't let your outflow for acquisitions dry up. That pipeline can't dry up. You have to figure out how to manipulate both of them, how to buy and how to sell simultaneously. And we used to do this with staff. I used to have a acquisition manager and a selling manager, and that's how we did it. But the glory of Creative REI Replay, and I'm not trying to push Creative REI, I'm just telling you that it's so worth the money just for this reason. You can keep your acquisitions and your sales balanced because of the automation. So you'll be able to get continuous income. You need to have massive outflow these days. Massive outflow needs to happen. Since COVID, I'm willing to say, I just did an email yesterday. I said it's 3 or 4 times what it used to be. I think it's even more than that. I think it's 5 or 6 times. You need to outflow more than ever now because there's so many people doing it. There's so much scams out there. You just need to really outflow and build trust. Okay. Sure. So to be able to have a consistent income from Creative REI Replay, you have to balance outflow for acquisitions and balance outflow for selling houses. It used to be you had to have a big staff to do all that. Nowadays with Creative REI Replay, the automation takes a lot of it away from you, and you'll be surprised what you can do with 1 or 2 people running a big business.
Yep.
So, and you just find all that at creativereireply.com. That's creative, REI, reply.com. It's not in the link or anything. Just go there. There's a video there. You can watch a demonstration and you can check it out. Okay? So I apologize for going 14 minutes over. I feel like I kind of sped through it, and I had concerns about doing all this in one podcast, but I think we did it. And if you go into the link, you can get the checklist, and you're over and out. You're all set. So we're gone. I don't know what podcast number. It hurts. Thank you. I don't know what podcast number 378 is going to be yet because I got to figure it out. So we'll talk to you on podcast number 378. Have a good week. Flourish and prosper. Over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.